All right, welcome back from our little break. Shalom, shalom to everyone. Um, going to be in Ezekiel. Coming back off a little break. I wasn't here last week. I was in Michigan. Jacob and I made a trip up to Michigan. Actually, no, I guess on Saturday we were back in Indiana. On Sabbath we were back in Indiana, but we were on our trip to and from Michigan. Stopped off on the way back in Brazil, Indiana, and visited Brother Jason, Sister Sarah, and their new congregation that they just began meeting recently. This week and next week are going to be a study in how poorly the chapters of some of the books of the Bible were split up. This week we're doing chapter 15, which is about 8 verses long. And next week we will be in chapter 16, and hold your horses. Chapter 16 is 63 verses long. You would think that maybe the translators could have come up with a better chapter breakdown than that. But nonetheless, we're going to bear with you, and we're going to be here a short time today and a long time next week. So maybe good that Brother Mellick broke his lesson this week up into 2 parts. So we made a little room for my long teaching next week. So chapter 15 begins with the words, "The word of Yehovah came to me." I know some of you think I harp on this a lot, maybe too much. I don't know that we can harp enough on it so that we all keep it drilled into our minds. That when he says that the word of Yehovah came to him, he's talking about Mashiach came to him in a pre-incarnate form, whether he was still seeing him as he saw him in the earlier vision, or whether he was hearing that soft voice that points us in the right direction, that we call Holy Spirit. What he was experiencing here, we don't know, but we know that the word came to him. The Messiah says to him, "O mortal, how is the wood of the grapevine better than the wood of any branch to be found among the trees of the forest?" For those who don't know, the grapevine, although it has the wood that it produces has many purposes, they are specific purposes. They can be used for things like making bows or making rounded edges in a piece of woodwork. They cannot be used for something that is structurally strong. They are not dependable. They splinter from the core when they are not nourished properly. A tree can die and stand for another 20 years because the grain is solid and strong and all runs together. But the grain of a grapevine twists along its core, and it makes it very weak. So the same give that makes it pliable enough that when it's green we can use it for certain things, when it becomes dry, when the nourishment is not there and has not been there for some time, it begins to fall apart. And then, basically, the only use that it has is for burning. Can wood be taken from it to use in any work? Can one take a peg from it and hang any vessel on? The answer is no, because when it becomes brittle, that vessel will fall. Now suppose it was thrown into the fire as fuel, and the fire consumed its 2 ends, and its middle was charred. Is it good for any use? And the answer is no. The ends are burned up, the middle is charred, There is no nourishment coming through that life vein from which we draw water. If you've ever been in one of my survival classes, you know that we teach about how to get drinkable water by cutting a vine at the right location. But if you do that, then that vine begins to die. Everything above the cut begins to die and eventually becomes very frail. And kids like to cut those vines at just the right spot, drink the water, and then swing on them. And usually after a day or two, the longest I've ever seen one last was about a week. It's a very old, very thick, mature vine. I wish they had never cut, but they cut it, and when they swung on it, after several days, it became weak. And one day, one kid was trying to swing across the ditch with it, and it fell apart on him because there was no nourishment. Even when it was whole, it could not be used for anything. How much less can, when fire has consumed it and it is charred, can it still be used for anything? Assuredly, thus said Yehovah Elohim, like the wood of the grapevine among the trees of the forest, which I have designated to be fuel for fire, so will I treat the inhabitants of Jerusalem. I will set my face against them, and we talked about that about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, about what that means, how your face set against them. They escaped from fire, but fire shall consume them. When I set my face against them, you shall know that I am Yehovah. I will make the land a desolation because they committed trespass, declares Yehovah Elohim. And so the question arises, how had our ancestors committed trespass? They had trespassed against our Creator. They had trespassed in not giving their tithes. They had trespassed in not giving offerings. And we've talked before about there's a difference between tithes and offerings. You cannot come here to the synagogue and give a tithe. Why? Because a tithe is the 10th portion, the 10th out of 10 portions of your livestock and your crops. With the exception of my family, no one here raises livestock or crops. Also, they have to be given to a Levitical priest. We do not have one of those locally. And the purpose has to be for sustaining the work of the temple in Jerusalem. The temple is not standing in Jerusalem at this time. Therefore, we cannot properly give tithe. What we can give is offering to be used in his work for whatever purpose, whether it's finishing the synagogue, whether it's reaching out to the homeless, whether it's providing food to the needy, whatever it is, whatever commandment he gives us to do, whatever mitzvah he gives us to do that requires some sort of financial backing. If we do it corporately, we can do offering in and we can use it for that purpose. Other ways they had trespassed. They had not kept the Shabbat. If you study the book of Jeremiah, Jeremiah, and you study the book of Daniel, you will find that Daniel says that he knew the number of years of the exile because he studied Jeremiah's writings. And if you look back at Jeremiah's writings, it says that it will be 70 years to the day because that is the number of times that the Sabbath of years was not kept and the land was not allowed to rest. And we know that that is the commandment that is given in the Torah, that 6 years we will till the land, and in the 7th year we will let it go. We'll not till it. We'll let it be rejuvenated. Okay? All of these things and many more were trespasses. Another great trespass was idol worship. Sometimes in your King James or New King James, you're probably reading idols. In the JPS, it talks about fetishes. Fetishes weren't just idols. Fetishes were idols to which people sacrificed loved ones, with their own blood. There were some other technical things that we didn't want me to finish, but that was part of it. And as disgusting as we believe that is today, every one of us has done it. No, I don't have a statue that I sacrifice my children on. I don't pass them through fire to molest. But there are times when I let my job become so important to me that I get distracted, and I'm not the husband and father that I should. There are times when I should be spending quality time with a member of my family, and my phone keeps buzzing, and it's something for work, and I keep answering it, even when I've told them, well, this is the day that I'm taking off to spend with my kids, and certain people don't get that, and then my kids don't get what they need from me, or my wife doesn't get what she needs from me. And so even though it is not a blood sacrifice, when I fall into that trap without even realizing it, I'm sacrificing my time with my own blood, with my other half. And I'm guilty of it. And so some of you may notice that when you call, I don't always answer anymore. You may notice that I don't make certain things as much of a priority as I do. That I let some things go and focus on other things, mainly my wife and children. I'm doing that because it occurred to me some time back that having this deal with corrections is like the job of my dreams. The kind of thing I always wanted to do. And helping people change their lives around to the point where hopefully they won't go back into the system. It's the kind of thing I always wanted to do. And I'm proud of that. And my wife has told me before that she's proud of me for the work that I do. But that doesn't mean that it can take the place of my first ministry, of my first job, being president and father. And so I'm taking steps to change that. And I'm challenging everyone here. Take a long, hard look at your life. You look at the things that may have become idols and fetishes for you. The things that may be keeping you from serving Him the way He wants you to, or from serving your family. My family doesn't have to be wife and children. It could be siblings, it could be parents, it could be in-laws. But as I take anything out of chapter 15 of Ezekiel, I take that there is a punishment for losing sight of what matters and replacing that with something else. And the punishment isn't just that the people that you should be caring for become disgruntled with you or embittered. There's also a divine punishment that can be exacted when we put other things before what He has commanded us to do. At the risk of this going down in history as my shortest sermon ever, do we have a big crash?